What's up, guys?
Happy Monday.
Welcome back to another episode of Whiskey and Water.
Yeah, starting the week off right.
Yes, we are. We have a
If you're listening
great...
on Monday.
Yeah, I know. We always say that. Hopefully you are. We have an amazing episode with our friend Amanda Abella. She is a millennial personal finance business expert. She has her own book.
And a podcast.
Boss. Rich Wealth. She's the author of Make Money Your Honey, which was an Amazon best-selling book, and she's been featured in Forbes, the Huffington Post, and Business Insider. So, guys, she is legit.
She's dope. I mean, like, I was really, not to say like pleasantly surprised by the conversation, but she was just like really well versed and had a lot of value to bring. And I feel like I said this before on like a previous episode, but like if you have some time, I would definitely like bring out a notebook, jot down some notes, either in your phone notes, because there's some really, really good takeaways in this episode.
Yeah, I know it's hard when you're driving. You don't want to die. I don't want to die either, and I don't want you guys to die. But definitely take notes. There's some valuable takeaways per usual. We always try to give you guys some takeaways, but it was more like of a mindset conversation than I thought it would be, which was interesting, but I enjoyed it because
I mean, everything boils down to mindset at the end
Facts.
of the day, which is what I believe in heavily, you know?
Yeah, facts. And a lot of money, like we talk about this in our conversation, but a lot of money is very there's a very emotional aspect
To money and your relationship with money.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I know we have kind of different approaches to money. We always have. We can talk about a little bit like our background, not background, but like how
our relationship with money.
Yeah, and like how we grew up with our parents and how they were with money.
Yeah, I mean, from the get, I know that we have, different relationships with money, and that's just because, I don't know, I wasn't taught to how to handle money, how to deal with money, and like relationships with money, like the relationship with money. Like my parents would like definitely argue about money when I was younger, and I say this in the episode, like anytime like my parents were in a fight, like they would kind of like repair things with gifts, and extravagant gifts, like cars and really expensive jewelry and things of that nature. And I don't know, I just feel like I didn't really have a great relationship with money, so I'm kind of working on, fixing my mindset and my relationship with money. And I know that you have a completely different relationship with it.
Pause before we continue, guys. If you are listening, please screenshot this and share it on your stories. Yeah, I mean, I grew up with, and I mentioned this again in the conversation, but I grew up with a single mom. We were, all I remember really is struggling. Like, not like when is our next meal, but definitely like, not to be wasteful with any food. And, it was tough. It was really tough. Because my mom also got sick for a period of time, so she like wasn't working her normal job. So yeah, I just remember she managed to somehow put me through like really expensive dance classes still. Like she made it happen. She would like take other jobs on the side, but I definitely grew up with like a saving mentality of like save whatever you can get. And it's been interesting, like, going to make my first investment. It was interesting, like mentally preparing for my savings to pretty much be like depleted.
Yeah.
So that was kind of, challenging for me to overcome, because for as long as I've known, it's been my like safety net, and especially like starting to make money from a young age, because I started modeling at 9 and my mom opened a separate account for me and like never let me touch that money until I turned 18, which was awesome. I don't think enough parents do that when they get their kids into kid modeling. They like use the money to pay their bills, but my mom like always just put it in a savings account for me.
Yeah, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's so cool. And so like I always like had that mentality to keep growing that. And I'm definitely not good at budgeting, but it's something we're working on. And
I taught myself how to budget like within like this past year. Like,
you've been better about it, looking at your numbers. I know you've been like, you need a budget.
Yeah, it's just nice being able to like know exactly what money's coming in, what money's going out every month, and
right, and what you're spending it on.
Yeah, exactly. Like I do, like I break everything up into categories. So like entertainment and like eating out and Ubers and parking. Like I do all of it just to see like where my money's at. But also I was going to say something. I had it. It's lost. It was good.
All right. Okay.
Rest in
R.I.P.
peace.
I know for me, like, since luckily we don't spend much money on clothes and things like that. I'm
Jess is
talking to
looking at the
myself.
fly.
Yeah.
No, I'm trying
She's
to.
trying to remember what she was thinking about.
Yeah, keep going. It'll come to me, maybe.
So like luckily we don't spend, you know, I know a lot of girls our age, and we're obviously super fucking thankful. A lot of girls our age spend money on a lot of their income like on clothes and makeup and, you know, just trying to keep up with the trends. And luckily we don't really spend money on that. At least I try to. I don't.
The only reason that we don't spend money on that, which I think is really huge to mention, is that like we get a lot of our stuff for free.
Well, yeah,
just
that's
through
my
Instagram.
point.
Oh, okay. I thought you were just saying like we just don't spend money on it, because like we would.
No, we would
if,
had we not gotten it for work.
And I don't know, like I feel like we kind of save a lot in that aspect. Like anything that we like,
no, 100%. I know we do.
we're really fortunate.
Because even before we go to buy something, I'm like, we could get a collaboration for that. So like I'm really picky with how I spend my money.
For sure.
But it's definitely like on food, on occasions, on, oh, hey, this friend's in town, let's get dinner. Oh, okay, it's my sister's birthday and it's my dad's birthday and it's Father's Day. It's like, for me, I know like that's where I end up spending majority of my money, is like making exceptions for like dinners with friends and just being out and about, and definitely on food. Like that's my worst spending habit.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I mean, I just like, as far as my relationship with money, I remember even like in college, I was telling my dad, I was like, I need a credit card. Like, I need to start building credit. And he was like, no. He's like, avoid getting a credit card as much as you can. He's like, I don't support it. And I was like, and then I just came to realize, like, that's not good advice.
Yeah.
Like, you should be teaching me how to handle credit cards responsibly. Not to avoid them at all costs.
Right, because we talk about this, but it could be a tool, you know?
Yeah, I mean, as it should be. Like, you need to start building your credit. You need credit for, you know, certain things. And it's better if you have, like, a more long-standing relationship with credit, you know?
And just, like, developing a healthy relationship with money in general. Like we said, it's really emotional. And, you know, I think this conversation is very valuable for you guys, because I don't know how often we even get to talk about money with other people and with mentors. So Amanda was like so great to have on, because she is a mentor, she's a coach, she's a professional, like
and she's a millennial.
And she's a millennial, and she's just so knowledgeable about this stuff, and it was really nice to pick her brains, and I think you guys are really gonna get some good value and takeaways from it.
Yeah. So with that being said,
without further ado,
we would love it if you guys would screenshot this, share it on your stories. We love to see what your favorite takeaways from the episodes were, and that you guys are listening. You know, it really inspires us. We received a lot of love on last week's episodes, so we thank you guys for that. It really means the world to us, and it makes our day anytime we read one of those messages.
We love hearing from you guys, so please share with friends, share word of mouth. If you have a friend and you're like, oh my God, I have this podcast, you would love it, share it with them. You know, that's the best help you guys could give us to help us grow and keep this thing going. So definitely share in your stories, tag us, and
yeah. Enjoy the episode.
Yeah, we love you guys. Enjoy.
All right, so we are here with Amanda. Amanda, how are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you. Actually, fun fact, I was telling you before we started recording, since we started the podcast, I've had you in mind to come on, because we met like 2 years ago.
Like 2 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, at a blogger panel. And
like a Miami Bloggers thing?
Yeah, it was Miami Bloggers.
Cool.
And we were on the same panel, and I just heard you talk, and I was like, oh my God, I want to pick your brains.
Yes. Super excited
yeah,
for this.
we're really happy to have you on.
Yeah.
Well, I'm proud of you, because you started a podcast since then. It's pretty dope.
Lots happened in those 2 years.
I've been watching you traveling all over the place with
Thank
your
you.
modeling
I'll
stuff,
try.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little bit about your background, where you're from, what you do.
Oh, I'm from Miami, born and raised.
Hey,
the few, the
305.
proud. Parents are Cuban, so, you know, we started this with colada,
Of course. Tradition.
That's what you do in South Florida. And, you know, I grew up here my whole life. And when I was 22 years old, I graduated from college. People are usually surprised to hear that I went to a liberal arts school and have a degree in English literature.
Oh my God.
Wow, love that.
That is very interesting.
Yeah.
Considering what you do.
Considering what I do. People are like, did you always love finance? I'm like, no one wakes up in the morning and is like, oh, I love finance. Like, or at least that wasn't me. For me, it was really out of like necessity, because I graduated in 2010, went 6 months without any sort of job. whatsoever. And I was like, well, shit, like no one taught me anything about money, and the economy's fucked up right now, down the drain. And I think at the time, there was this like infamous New York Times article called like, what is it about 20 somethings, where they were just blaming millennials for everything.
Love that.
Still the same thing 10 years later.
Typical. Pretty typical.
And I was like, but this isn't our fault. Like, I've been in school this whole time. Like, how is this possibly my fault? So I was having a really difficult time because everything I'd been told is a lie. Like, I'm just having one of those moments where
sorry to interrupt you. What were you planning on doing after college? Like, what type of job were you interested in getting?
So here's the interesting thing. Like, I was not one of these delusional people who's like, oh yeah, I got a degree in liberal arts and I'm going to make a ton of money. Like, I kind of already knew I would have to figure it out myself.
Okay.
Right? Like, I wasn't, but at that time I was like, okay, well, I'll take anything like administrative start, but like, I don't care. Like,
I just need money.
I'm not too proud to beg. Like, you know, but there was nothing. I think in Miami at the time, it was like 13% unemployment.
Wow.
In Miami-Dade County.
Wow.
At the time, which was higher than even the national average.
Wow.
And with a degree.
And with a degree, whatever. So there was one of those moments, and a friend handed me a book called The Art of Nonconformity by Chris Guillebeau. He's the guy who does like World Domination Summit. I think he wrote $100 Startup and The Happiness of Pursuit, I think, are his other two books.
I've heard of that one.
Yeah, so The Art of Nonconformity was his first book, and in it he talked about how you don't have to necessarily do things the way they've been prescribed to you. At the time, he had a goal of like visiting every country on the planet. I think he did it by the time he was 33 or 35 or something.
Jesus.
Yeah, he met the goal a couple years ago.
Wow.
And he was basically like, you know, you could work for yourself. You know, you don't have to wait for people. It was very timely. Let's just put it that way. So I was like, okay, well, I know how to write. I've always kind of wanted to be a writer. That I knew. I was a very creative person. I Googled how to make money writing online.
Yep, I've been there too. Google. Literally have done the same thing.
Yeah, I remember that.
And one thing led to another. And at the time, there were these things called content mills, which I don't even think exist anymore. But basically, you would write all these articles, drive traffic to it, and then they'd split the ad revenue with you. So I was with one of those. I made like $5 my first month because it was like the sign-up bonus or something. And then I realized, oh, okay, I could get paid $10 or $15 for an article. And they had all these open assignments. So I ended up taking on home improvement. I don't know why. I was like, that sounds like fun. I need money, sure, whatever. Health and wellness, because that was a topic that was forefront because I had been dealing with some health issues for about a year as well. And then I saw personal finance, and I was like, I don't know a damn thing about money. Like, my financial education goes as far as don't get into credit card debt. Like, that was as far as it went. I don't know anything, but what if I get paid to learn about it? So that's how it all started.
Okay. And you see an opportunity, you take it.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I started a blog shortly thereafter to hold myself accountable. I thought it was going to help with clips. And I was like, I can't be the only one struggling like this. And I was right.
Yeah, right. You found your market.
You found my market. But back then, I mean, the influencer thing didn't exist. The coaching thing didn't exist. Like, what's gone on in the last 10 years in the online business space is wild. And it's been a fun ride.
So you went from, you know, doing these articles online. Where did that kind of take you, and how did, you know, how can we get the listeners up to speed on, you know, where you're at now in that journey?
So I did actually get a job. I ended up working for a small agency. We were recruiters. So basically I was interviewing people for jobs every day for our corporate clients.
Interesting.
We were like the middleman.
We did something very similar, but not, it was with one company, to hire for that one company. It wasn't like to match them with other companies.
Yeah. So I learned some important lessons at that job. People are people. That was the first thing my boss told me. You learn that working in HR very fast. Right. And it was almost like getting paid to get my MBA. Like,
okay, so you got a lot of like hands-on experience.
Yeah, because besides my boss, I was the only other like full-time employee. So I saw a lot of like the ins and outs and all that kind of stuff.
Cool.
So I was like, okay, that works. That doesn't work. Like, I didn't realize until very recently, I'm 31 now, where I was like, oh, I've always been kind of good at just like observing situations and taking mental notes. I didn't realize that until recently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a really important skill to have, especially in our generation. Like, you need to be proactive, you need to be hands-on, and you need to, like, just be aware of your surroundings and see, like, opportunities to just learn from.
Well, it was probably the liberal arts education, to be honest,
Right.
because it kind of teaches you how to reason and think and synthesize.
Right.
And so now is when I'm making the connection 10 years later.
Isn't that funny?
Isn't that crazy?
Hindsight's 2020.
Everything comes back around.
We
Truly.
always talk about that.
I've been having a lot of those revelations too, which is funny because, like, you know, and I'm sure that you learn to reflect a lot. And
Yeah.
lately I've just been reflecting and then realizing that, you know, certain things in my life are, you know, products of earlier teachings or, you know, things that I did. So that's really interesting.
Yeah. So at that job, I mean, I was still operating under the assumption of like, you're going to go get a job. But I never quit the freelancing or the blogging on the side because at that point, I'm like, no, I'm talking to people who get fired every day or get laid off every day. Like,
Right.
I'm not letting go of this extra money. But I think I never fully believed it could really turn into anything. I just didn't want to let it go.
Right.
And I enjoyed it too. So it's not like it was a drag or anything.
Right. That's kind of a creative outlet for you.
Yeah. So then I think I started making friends online, probably met them on Twitter, and I noticed that they started quitting their jobs to just like freelance full time. And I was like, oh boy, there's something going on here. Because I was getting two different stories. Like at my job every day, I was getting the traditional job with the benefits and moving up. And then online, I was getting go do your own thing. The economy's totally
Right.
changed. It's
Yeah.
shifting.
Yeah.
It's, you know,
You,
and
like, don't know what to listen to.
I didn't know what to listen to for a while. I just kept going. And then one day I just was like, okay, I have to give it a shot because like this economy is not going back to how it was in 2008, observing again.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And people, I guess, just had not caught on to that. And I was like, I have to give this a shot. I was 25 at the time. I was like, I have 9 months to at least figure out how to pay for my own health insurance.
Right.
With my own stuff. That was my first goal. My expenses were super low. I kept them that way. I quit. 6 months later, I launched the book, Make Money or Honey. And in the process of launching that book was when I started doubling down on finance because I interviewed about 100 people in like my social media audience and stuff like that. And everyone was freaking out about money. So I was just like, okay, this is the thing.
This is a problem.
This is the problem.
Yeah.
I'm doubling down on this. Because although I'd been talking about it the whole time, I never really like
dove into it.
Yeah,
and owned it.
And then when I started diving into it and owning it for myself, for my company, I ended up doing content marketing for major banks. That's what I did. And then now I've moved more into spokesperson work, influencer work, and then consulting for marketing and sales trainings for bloggers and business owners. But I doubled down. And when I really started digging into money, I was like, whoa, this is very similar to health. Like you can tell people what people know what they're supposed to eat and they're still not going to do it.
Right.
Money's the same way. Like
Yeah.
you know to pay your taxes. You know not to spend more than you earn. You know these things. But people still don't do it. And
Right.
granted, total lack of financial education in the system, right?
Right.
Although that is changing. I think North Carolina recently made it a requirement for graduation.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Shit, man.
It's about time.
I need to go back. North Carolina failed my ass.
Oh, really? Are you from North Carolina?
I was raised there.
Oh, you were
predominantly.
raised there? Yeah, I think they just made it a requirement.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, it should be a requirement. Like, I
Yeah.
had zero education. And, you know, I feel like it should be on the parents as well. I mean, like you said, like, all I know is not to get in credit card debt. That's all I
Yeah, but most parents don't know either.
They don't know, right?
No
so how
one
can
knows.
you teach something?
This is a generational thing. It's not that simple.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, like even if you do tell people, oftentimes they still won't do it.
Right.
So at that point, it's like, okay, what's going on?
Yeah.
And that's when I started diving into the psychology part of things.
Right.
Behavioral psychology, subconscious mind stuff. Most people are operating like subconsciously.
Yeah,
Totally.
for sure.
When
I mean, they're not avidly being like, oh, let me, you know, destroy my savings and, you know, buy these things I don't need. It's like a
self-sabotage.
It's
It's
Exactly.
totally, it's
It's their
100% self-sabotage
relationship.
a lot of the time.
It's like I deserve this. You know, I work so hard. I deserve to spend however much on vacation. When really, like, you're only hurting yourself.
Yeah, and there's a time and place for that. Like, there is a part of it where it's like, okay, expanding into new awareness with your money, but most people are not there yet. Most people are starting with less than zero. Like, there's
Right.
there's levels to this shit.
Yeah, no, there really is.
Yeah.
I want to touch on what you said about like it not being a part of our education system, because that's something we've preached before, and we never want people to think that we're like you know, degrading the education system or not system, but at getting an education.
Right.
We just take self-education very seriously. Like, I read a book last year about taxes. Like, I didn't have to do that, but no one's going to teach me.
Yeah.
And that's like kind of our whole point with this podcast is like, no one's going to teach you this shit if you're not teaching it to yourself, especially if you, like, I grew up with a single mom and she didn't know much about finances either. So, like, how could we expect our parents to teach us shit when they don't they're just doing their best. They're just fucking paying the mortgage and trying to put you in dance classes.
Operating under the scripts they probably learned from their parents who also didn't know. So to put it in perspective, I did a keynote at a major insurance company about a year ago, and it was an auditorium, and I asked, I'm like, how many of you actually heard a positive conversation about money while you were growing up? One person in the whole auditorium raised their hand.
Wow.
So this is like a societal, cultural issue. And it's for lots of reasons. It's what you learned at home, but it's also like general cultural stuff. Like, most people hear money is the root of all evil, and they think that comes from the Bible. That's not even what the Bible says.
Yeah. Money at the end of the day and in our current society is energy. You know, you thrive off of money. That's how that's how you barter. That's how you live. So, I mean, I feel like we just need to like change our perspective. But I'm actually interested in hearing, in your research, have you found that there are some direct things that people can kind of like reflect on and say, oh, I'm doing this, like I am self-sabotaging, and like
the psychology behind,
and like, so what kind of behaviors do you feel are, self-sabotaging, but maybe subconsciously, that people like don't understand that they're doing, but are?
Right.
Yeah. So one that comes up, this is going to get a little heady, but one that comes up a lot is people avoid making decisions and they procrastinate quite a lot.
Me, no.
So, for example, a lot of people will say, oh, I want this problem fixed. For example, I want to go start a business. The opportunity for them to do it shows up, and then suddenly all the scripts come in. Oh my God, it's so risky. Oh my God, why don't you just go get a job? Who are you to do this? You're not smart enough. You saw your grandfather go bankrupt. I don't know, whatever. Like, all those things start coming in. They come in different ways. And again, some of it is just what you picked up growing up, and others are just normal societal things. Like, people see entrepreneurship as something really risky. And yeah, sure, it is. But if you look at the statistics, most of the self-made millionaires in this country are, number one, first-generation Americans, and number two, no one won the lottery, and no one had a job. Like, they all had businesses.
And I think also something that's important to note is that in this day and age, like, you can have a really solid, steady job, but you can also be laid off at any point.
Oh yeah, I saw that when I worked in recruiting. Yeah,
I don't think it's any more secure.
It's not.
Like,
you can think that you are like a shoo-in and like you're going to be at this company for like 10 years, but they could take a hit and they may need to lay you off, or you take one wrong step and they're replacing you.
It's just as risky.
So that's another subconscious script, is looking for safety. It doesn't exist. And that's the thing people don't realize, is this bullshit we've been fed about like security and
safety nets.
Safety nets. Like, it's not a thing. It doesn't exist.
Right.
So what a lot of the personal finance books, like Think and Grow Rich and The Science of Getting Rich, which is all about how to think about money, they're not telling you to not buy lattes. It's not about that.
Right. I needed to hear that. Thank you.
I feel like that's every blog, like, geared toward millennials. It's like, stop buying your Starbucks. And I'm like,
and it's like, save that $3 every day.
At this
for
point,
the
I'm
entire
like,
year.
fuck you. My company made $250,000 last year. I can buy some fucking coffee.
Humble brag. Go fuck yourself.
And it's gonna keep going. But I used to fall for that. So a lot of people are taught to like conserve, manage, right? There's this other side of finance, but they stay there. They stay stuck there. They don't look beyond that, right? And that'll get you to like what I call financial solvency. Like, okay, you know what to do with money.
You know how to ruin your life with your money.
You know how to not ruin your life. Right? But there's this other part about money, which is all about building wealth. And it's almost like you have to unlearn a lot of the stuff that 100%. You learn to get to solvency, because it does require risk. Investing requires risk. Now, it's not gambling.
It's calculated risk.
It's calculated risk, but people are like, oh no, it's like gambling. And it's like, no.
It's not.
You
can control.
Another way people self-sabotage is like super emotional decisions. right? Like they're just not consciously aware. Like when Bitcoin was really hot a couple years ago, I got chewed out on social media because people were like DMing me like, oh my God, I'm in debt. Should I get into Bitcoin? I just took out a second mortgage to get into Bitcoin. I mean, people were doing some crazy stuff because Bitcoin was getting really hot.
I gotta say, I guilty as charged. I was naive and had my own little...
So people were DMing me and they're like, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? So I just did like this blanket statement on Facebook. I'm like, listen, if I had dumpster fire money a couple years ago, my friend Paula Panic calls it dumpster fire money, which is like, this is play money, money I could just throw away. I would have gotten in on this a couple years ago, but I didn't have dumpster fire money back then. Right? Now it's too late. You know, like this is totally inflated because it's all people's emotions. Like people are gambling with their money. Like this thing's going to crash. I got chewed the fuck out on social media by people I went to college with, by the way.
Who are like hardcore Bitcoin.
Yeah, they're like, how could you call yourself a financial expert, not understand Bitcoin?
Cryptocurrency people are like die hard. It really is.
2 weeks later, my friends and I, like my friends in finance who'd warned people, we were watching that shit tank live.
And you're like, told you so.
Told you so.
Like watching the ship sink and you're just like,
Yeah, so it's a lot of like lottery mentality.
Yeah.
It's a lot of the government's gonna fix it for me mentality. There's a lot of that going on right now. Not to say that we don't have systemic or policy issues, but in our political arena, they definitely do use that little script to get people riled up.
And to go kind of back to what you said about of the people who, you know, are in that conserve mindset, who need to kind of branch into the wealth, like growing wealth, what would you like your first steps be for those people?
Oh gosh, it's usually the first investment is the scariest one. That's what I tell people. So for me, you know, I had been investing in like index funds and retirement things. So I think the first thing is you have to realize that like, yeah, okay, you might lose some money. That's just kind of a part of the game. Right? It goes up and down, up and down, up and down.
Scared money don't make no money.
Scared money don't make no money. It's true, though. It's so true. Yeah. And the up and down is a part of it. Like, your job is to just make sure you're mentally and emotionally, like, okay throughout all the ups and downs.
I feel like a big part of it is it's a lot of mindset.
All of it is. Like, I would argue at least 80%, if not 90, is all mindset.
And what would you say for someone who, you know, is like an early 20-something, doesn't really have that money to spare, but kind of wants to get into it? Because even myself, like I'm 24, I've never made some investments. However, I have started looking into it, but like I have no idea where to start or what to do. Like I walked myself into like a Fidelity bank the other day, which is actually, I gained a lot of knowledge. Olivia has a like a retirement fund, a Roth IRA, and she was like, you know, you need to get on this, So you can do this online, but I don't know, I just walked into one and I had like an hour-long conversation with one of these guys who did nothing but just like educate me on the subject. So going back to my question, what would be, you know, your first recommendations for people who want to get into this?
Yeah, so there's lots of apps now where you can get started. They have like investment apps where you can do micro investing. I mean, it's not going to make you rich. It's not going to do any of that. There's more to it than just these apps, but that's a really good place to start.
First step.
That's I think one of them's called like Robinhood or something. Have you heard of that one?
It's a good one.
Yeah, I think that one's for individual stocks, but there's other ones. You know, there's Stash, there's Acorn. There's a whole bunch of them. They each have their own kind of like little angle.
And what would you say is a good starting point for like a small investment? Like how much money?
I mean, I was doing as little as $100 a month when I first started.
Okay.
I think before we even get into like the investing side of it, I think for a lot of people, because I know I'm guilty of it too. It's like a part of you really just like doesn't want to sit down and look at the numbers.
Oh yeah.
So like totally. First and foremost, before you can even think about what do I have to invest, you need to sit down and look at what you have.
Yeah.
What your debt is.
Yep.
Speaking of apps, I have a great app called Mint.
Oh, Mint's good.
And I had like an epiphany because I have been saving a lot, like ever since I started modeling when I was like a kid. So I've had a savings account. And then I got some credit cards and I went to LA and I put myself in debt and, you know, here, this, and that. And you spread out your credit cards. And then when you see, like I connected all my accounts on Mint. And then when you see that number, which is your savings minus the debt, I was like,
Oh shit.
Fuck.
So
like, you know
that's what
that in
Mint
your
does for you?
head.
So what you're
Yes.
talking about is net worth. So people get this real confused. They're like, oh, I'm just gonna, and this is why there's lots of nuances when it comes to money. So like, you can't, even listening to this podcast, like, you're not gonna get the whole scope of it. Or
Of
like,
course, yeah.
listening to like people on TV, you're definitely not gonna get the whole scope of it. Cause like, they'll be talking about like, don't buy lattes, and then like another podcast they're talking about their $50 million jet, and it's like, you didn't get a $50 million jet by not buying lattes.
Right,
Like,
right,
there's a
right.
part
There's
of
something in between.
There's something in between. Something's missing. But most people can't like pick that up because they just don't know. Like,
Right.
it's not. So that's going back to your point. Like, it's a personal responsibility thing where you have to like really dig into it. Like, personal
yourself
finance
accountable.
is personal.
Right.
So what you're talking about is net worth. And a lot of people are like, oh, I'm making a lot of money, I'm fine. Not if you're not keeping any of it.
Right. Subtract your debt and see how much money
Yeah.
you're really making. But I just remember that being like a pivotal moment for me in my personal finances, because like I like knew it in my head, but when I saw the physical number, I was like, oh fuck. And then I made a goal by the end of last year. I'm like, I'm paying off all my debt.
Yeah.
Because you know the savings is like your little egg nest, but then is that the right word?
Safety net?
Safety net, yeah, I guess. But then when you don't realize when you have the debt and you subtract it all, it makes no sense. Like, I don't know why our brains work like that.
Yeah, and to your point about people just being scared to look at the numbers, sometimes they think they're more broke than they actually are.
Right, that's
that
true
happens
too.
a lot too. So one of my private coaching clients right now, she's starting a second company where she's doing trainings to help women get to their first $1 million.
Oh, I love that.
Because she's a self-made millionaire.
I want to talk to her.
Yeah, right? We'll get her on the podcast.
And she has a client who was one of those people who was just terrified to look at the numbers. She made her client go look at the numbers. That person had $20,000 sitting in a checking account they'd forgotten about. Like, they just didn't even know.
I'm going to look for my 20K that I just forgot about. It has to be there somewhere.
Yeah, right? Search all the corners. Search all of the purses in your room.
Yeah, exactly.
Open the bags.
I'm the type to like leave some money away and like hopefully like it's like I put like 20s in my pockets sometimes so that like
A little surprise
when,
for
when I
later.
put on those jeans I'm like, oh, love myself for that.
Yeah, but
Rich.
people just don't pay attention, and they don't pay attention because it's like super emotionally charged.
It is. Money is very, I think that's something we overlook. Money is very emotional.
Super emotional. Yeah, it brings
And
up
I
a lot
don't
of
know
triggers.
why. Why do you think that is?
Well, I mean, okay, I'll give you an example. One of my clients now who just joined my Persuade to Profit program, in her life, her mother came into a lot of money through an inheritance. And I guess she just didn't know how to really take care of it. And then her mother married someone, and then that person just like took
Stole
advantage.
everything.
There was a lot of abuse. So
Yeah.
like that client has a script of like, oh, if I make a lot of money,
It'll be
someone's
taken
going to
away
be
from
taken
me.
away. Someone's going to abuse me. Someone's going to.
Right.
So then, okay, she's been an under earner until recently.
I feel like there's trauma.
Oh,
that can
totally.
come
Everybody's
from
got
money.
some trauma.
Yeah.
And
money associated trauma.
To speak on that, even like my parents, like anytime that they would get in an argument or like my dad fucked up, he would buy my mom gifts.
Yeah.
And like, I'm saying like cars. like not like, you know,
A Pandora
little-
bracelet.
Yeah, no, like cars. Like
Sorry, I cheated on you, honey. Here's a
literally
brand new car.
extravagant things. And so I feel like it definitely has to do with everyone's personal experiences
Yeah.
and just, you know, I feel like it even, you know, goes into like love languages and stuff like
Yeah.
that, you know? But I definitely wanted to talk about people's like relationships with money, particularly millennials, and kind of how they can begin to unlearn the things that they learned and how they can start mending their relationship and their mindset about money. So what would you recommend to someone?
So the first thing you have to do is you have to be so freaking honest with yourself. Like most people know when they're fucking up.
Yeah.
Yep. And
You
they're
just have
just
to admit it to
putting
yourself.
aside,
You just
yeah.
have to admit it. And you have to take a look at what's going on and then make a commitment to changing it, even if it scares you. So for me, I was terrified. I'm like, I've had a script going since I was 8 that I suck at math. Therefore, I'm going to suck at money. You know? That's a script I have to deal with
Yeah.
consistently. Especially it's like
We're
I
in the
go,
same boat.
Yeah.
especially as I go to like new levels, it's that same fucking story that comes up again.
Right. You're like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I
and
can't
you
do
know
this.
what? It's like it's a self-limiting belief, you
Yeah.
know, at the end of the day, because it's like, and I catch myself doing this all the time. This is just like a little pro tip. Like anytime that I hear that negative self-talk, I literally like stop myself in my tracks and I'm like, no, that's just a narrative that I have been identifying with, and I can choose to identify with another narrative and start visualizing myself as that person and showing up as that person.
Yeah, it's about, so many people fail to recognize that.
Yeah,
like, and to recognize that, you have to be observing your own thoughts. You know, so many people are like in their thoughts and in their mind.
They don't
and
know how to disassociate.
They don't know how to take a step back, go to a higher level and be like, okay, why am I feeling this way towards this? Why am I doing this? So that's just like psychology, but
that's step number 1, is taking a step back and, you know, looking at where you are.
Listen to where your brain is going. And if you hear that negative self-talk, be like, oh, wait, look at it's self-sabotage again. It's like, look at what I'm doing to myself. Look at these boundaries I'm setting for myself. And like you said, it's a script you don't have to believe.
Yeah, and what I see really often, and unfortunately it's more with women, is like this cycle of under-earning. Like, women are consistent under-earners. They say 1 in 4 female workers in the United States is an under-earner, which basically means you like give and give and give and give and give and give and work and work and work and work and take more responsibilities, and you're not being properly compensated for it.
You're not demanding more.
You're not demanding more, right? Granted, yes, systemic issues, policy issues, it all exists. But all of that aside, you know, there's still a part that like we can do, because I overcame under earning.
Yeah.
You know, you can start asking for more money, even though it scares the shit out of you, right? Or one of the things I've noticed, which is consistent, is usually women in that cycle have incredibly loose boundaries and low self-esteem. So it's almost like they get their validation from overdoing things
instead of like the monetary.
And then it can get really nasty, because it's like, I'm going to overgive and overdeliver, and I'm going to expect this person to do the same thing. I'm just going to expect them to give me money, or I'm going to expect them to respect me, and then they don't. Usually they walk all over them, and then it turns into this like nasty cycle.
So I think
that sometimes is hard to break.
Yeah, I think that's especially relatable for people who work for themselves.
Yep.
And, you know, because we are negotiating. We are our own agents. At some point, it's like, you don't want to lose the relationship with a brand, but you also want to like know your worth. I know that's something we've struggled with for years, is like standing your ground and being willing for them to walk away. Like, you have to be okay with the deal falling through.
And in order to do that, and this is what like the wealth consciousness books talk about, that maybe traditional personal finance books don't, is like the universe, there's a lot of money. Like, we're looking at a skyline right now full of construction. That takes a whole lot of money.
Right.
There's a whole lot of money in this city.
Right.
Right? It's out there. You just have to learn how to go get it.
Go get it, girl.
Yeah.
And boys.
And the universe is constantly expanding. So why wouldn't you expand with it? So that's what a lot of the wealth consciousness books talk about.
So I kind of want to go back to the, you know, millennials' relationships with money. And I know that you said, you know, we have to take a step back and really look at, you know, the numbers and, you know, meet ourselves with where we're at. What would you say is like the next step to mending that relationship with money?
Well, I'll tell you what helped me, and it was meditation.
Ooh.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's caught me off guard.
Yeah. A lot of people don't expect that. But that goes back to your point of people just not being able to disassociate.
Yeah.
It's free.
Yeah.
There's lots of apps you can use to get started. And it helps you not be so emotionally invested and wrapped up. So I've had a meditation practice for like a regular one, I think, for like 8 or 9 years.
And when you meditate, on these topics, are you meditating with the intention of like gaining clarity on money? Like, because, you know, a lot of people don't even know where to start with meditation, and that you can meditate on certain things to gain clarity.
Yep.
So like, how has meditation helped you with that?
Well, I think it helped me be less reactive. Like, it was so terrifying to me, because I'm like, I'm not good at this. I was one of those under-earning women, because it's just what you're trained to do. It's just I didn't know it back then. You know, and it helped me become less reactive. It also helps you, like, when there are challenges, there are going to be challenges. People try to avoid risk and avoid challenges. It's impossible.
And life is about challenges and how you...
And overcoming.
Yeah.
So it helps you in those situations. And I think it just helps give you some clarity. So, for example, I've been in meditations where, like, suddenly something makes sense, right? Or, like, I get a download or an answer that maybe I was trying to, like, super think my way into, and I was trying too hard and it wasn't working. And then, like, I'm in meditation and, like, bloop, Like,
Yeah.
there it is.
A lot of podcasts I listen to will say that you need to give yourself time to do nothing, like go for a walk. Like, and that is, you think it's not productive time, but you need to block out that time to just think, because you realize so many things. Like, I know I was watching a Bill Gates documentary on Netflix. He gives himself like a week off or 2 weeks off every month to just go away and just think and do nothing, but you just reflect. And he says some of his best ideas happen then, you know?
Yeah, usually your best ideas come when you're like in the bathroom, because your mind just, you're not like this. You're not going crazy in your mind. You're just like in the shower and
Putting
your brain
two and two together.
and then it's just like, boom, here's the answer, right? That's
so
why.
true.
And I've, I mentioned in the last episode that I've been doing this meditation crawl. So I've done, I'm still in it. I'm in like one of the last days of the meditation. And I realized that like, a lot of the times it's about like quieting your mind, but also it's kind of like about giving yourself that just like that space to think, because even when like, you're trying to be still, like thoughts will always arise. And sometimes I let myself run with them, because it's, you don't have to force yourself to, be still. And I've realized that I've come to some of my most like profound, ideas and thoughts when I've just given my brain that space to
break.
that stillness to like explain all the shit that's been going on up there.
Kind of just like a mental break.
Yeah.
Know thyself. Isn't that what the Greeks used to say? Know thyself. And it does actually help with and again, the wealth consciousness books, like the Think and Grow Rich and they talk about this stuff. It's just the traditional personal finance books are more about, well, most Americans are in debt, so how do we get them out of it?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so with that being said, what do you feel like in your work and your studies and your book writing and the people you've interviewed, what do you think the biggest misconception is about wealth and building wealth? And I guess money in general.
There's lots of them. I would say one that I hear a lot is people feeling guilty for wanting more.
Yes,
That's
I
really
have heard
common.
that.
That's really common. I deal with it now. I'm dealing as I grow my company. Like that's one I've had to deal with.
And that goes deeper into like self-worth and confidence.
It's self-worth. It's confidence. We're trained to just be okay with enough. You know.
Interesting. Because I feel like a lot of our conversations have been like, we want to get to a place where we're just satisfied and content with what is, instead of like more.
Happy but never satisfied. That's the trick. Because fulfillment lies in growth. Like I hit my first.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love that. Fulfillment lies in growth.
Which I think I got from Tony Robbins, but I may have fucked up the quote. But anyway, I think he said something along those lines.
Paraphrasing.
We just want to give credit where credit is due, guys. Before you start tweeting.
Yeah, no, we're gonna get listeners like, excuse me,
Amanda Abella.
Yeah, exactly.
So for example, like I had a goal, I'm going to have a 6-figure company by the time I'm 30. I got there. By the way, the only reason it took me as long as it did was because I thought it would. And that is not a lesson I got until I got there.
Yeah, you gave yourself the time.
Not making that same mistake on the way to 7. Let's put it that way.
That's interesting. A podcast we just listened to on Boss Babes said something like, imagine your goals in 5... What was it? Imagine your goals in 5 years and then plan back. Imagine where you want to be in 5 years and then plan backwards, and you'll get there way faster.
Yeah. So, but a lot of people are not trained to think big enough because either they have no grasp of it because they've never seen it.
They can't visualize themselves as that.
Ignorance.
Which goes, actually, not to cut you off, but that goes into self-worth. If you can't visualize yourself as the person that you like want to be, it's because you don't think of yourself like, you don't feel like you deserve it enough. So it's like, one, it's like cultivating that self-love and like that self-respect and knowing that you deserve it, visualizing that person, and then showing up as that person.
And I think it's also about patterns too in people's lives, their failures and the stories that they make of them. Like I know a big part of like the real estate investing, which I've gotten into. I don't know how much you know about that.
I'm getting into it too. I have a mentor. Hey girl, that was
let's talk real estate. Yeah. But a big part of it is like, so the podcast that I listen to is Bigger Pockets podcast.
Oh yeah,
so
I know
good.
them. They got a cool team.
Yeah, and
hey Mindy, if you're listening.
And a lot of what they say is like, it's all stories from how they started it and where they are now, and like it's just interesting because I see all the episodes I've listened to, I see what it's done to my mind and my mindset, because now I look at these it's so interesting. I look at these huge construction buildings and there's nothing that separates me from that. Like I look at that and I'm like, I can do that.
Hell yeah, brother.
And like, it's so cool. Like, and I also give credit to my mom because she's always been like, you can do whatever you set your mind to. But like, and then I check myself and I'm like, that's so cool that I can look at this like $1 million project and be like, I'm gonna get there one day.
Oh,
and there's
yeah,
there's nothing between me and that happening.
I see like there's,
and I just think that's so important because so many people would look at that and be like, oh, but well, that's for like, you know, bigger other people
you know, who
already
already have money. So
other people. And that's totally a self-limiting belief. Like anyone out there, hello, the world is fucking yours. The world is your oyster.
But most people are not, like, you got a good message at home. A lot of people didn't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the school system, it doesn't necessarily help with that either. Not because it's bad, just because it's outdated.
Right.
That's all.
And also a point while we're here about, you know, growing up and learning about money in households. I think another reason why it's emotionally charging is because, like, I know for my parents, a big reason their divorce happened was because of money.
Yeah, that's
and
very
I know
common.
that's the theme for a lot of people.
Yeah.
A lot of, you know, fights at home are because of money. And that's why like people associate money with like these
conflicts,
negative emotions.
I mean, and you even see it on a smaller scale every day on like Twitter and shit. You see the fucking tweets of like the girls who are like, me coming home from Target with like 20 bags and my husband being like, how much did you spend? And then they're like thinking about how much to lie about, you know, like I saw something like that like the other day on the feed, and it's like, that's like on a much smaller scale, like has to do with
still
like
creating a theme.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
One of my clients is like a mediator in relationships, and he specializes in financial conversations.
Yeah.
That shit gets
the fact that that's like,
I can imagine.
Like,
I can imagine. It's very
that is a
emotional.
whole other thing.
And even think about families, you know, when they get an inheritance and then like the conversations that families have to have together about, and then things get greedy, and then it's tough.
Yeah, and I would, to your point, another conversation that is very, very common is the whole idea like, oh, rich people are evil, rich people are greedy, they're all like Donald Trump or like whatever.
Right.
And like, you always use this as an example because when it came out that like Donald Trump's family, like he paid 0 in taxes or whatever, at first, everybody in finance was like, well, yeah, he's in real estate. That makes total sense. Like, you guys are having like a whole like hate the player instead of the game thing. You're on the wrong side of the game. Like, you know, then some other stuff came out. And it's like, okay, there might have been some fishy things going on.
Taxes.
Right? But that's still a really good example in terms of like people tend to hate the player instead of hating the game or learning how to play the game.
Learning how to play the game.
Yeah, they're just mad because they're not part of the game.
Yeah. Usually, that's
I mean, it definitely, there are some things that, you know, systemically need to change. But at the same time, it's like, why wouldn't
go
you
get
take
yours.
advantage of it?
Granted, go get yours, granted privilege and everything about that. Great episode about privilege, and we have a great conversation with Max Frost. I don't remember what episode it is, but check that out.
It's about activism.
Yeah, and you know, Bill Gates and Oprah are not evil. You know, they're doing great things with their money.
Yeah,
so, but that's a very common thing. They're evil. They're taking advantage of people. Sure, some are, but money really just magnifies more of who you are. Like if you were always a dick, money's just going to make you more of a dick. Like it's not
100%. Right. There's a great. Oh, go ahead.
And the opposite is true as well.
Yes, I agree. Also, just a great book for mindset and kind of like, you know, there's two ends of the spectrum, and Rich Dad Poor Dad is obviously like really well known, but that was, I think, my first financial book, and my mom gave it to me when I was like 10, like the Rich Dad Poor Dad for kids, and I never read it. But I mean, that's just a great for the average folk who wants to change their relationship with money. That's a great start.
And he has more of an abundance mindset and an investor mindset, whereas other personal finance experts are only focused on the get out of debt thing, and then once it comes to building wealth, they don't know what the hell they're talking about.
I mean, it takes two to tango. Like you need, you know, you can take things from both, but you gave me Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I think that's going to be my next one after I finish
for sure.
the one I'm on currently.
It's a mindset thing for sure, of not wanting to be an employee and wanting to be free and a boss and kind of like delegate things out and just live life on your own terms. Speaking of debt, I know a lot of our audience is fresh out of college, might have student loans, might have car loans, whatever it may be.
Might have made a stupid decision. And
might have abused credit cards.
Yeah, exactly.
So I would love to use this opportunity to ask you, what some of your tips are for getting out of debt.
So the first thing I would say is don't make yourself feel like shit over it.
Absolutely.
Because
All about the mindset.
so many
Love
people
that.
are like, I should have known better. No one taught you any better.
Yeah.
It is.
Can we just take a moment? I love that you said that. It's so important.
Be easy on yourself, you know?
Yeah, because there is a lot of guilt associated with
there's
debt.
a lot of guilt and shame and just a lot of like self-flagellation
For sure.
that goes on, and
I
it
even
doesn't help.
experience that all the time. I'm
Yeah.
like, why did I? How did I put myself in this situation, or whatever it may
You didn't know
be.
any better. If you would have known better, you would have done better.
I believe you. Love that. I will never.
Maya
I will
Angelou.
never make myself
Maya
feel
Angelou.
bad. And then I take this and I'm like, I deserve.
Right.
I deserve that
And then
bag.
it just flips back on
Yeah,
you.
right?
Okay.
No, I'm kidding.
Tips.
I mean, I've had clients who, before they came to work with me to build their brands and businesses, they were $50,000 in credit card debt, and they found ways out of
How?
it.
Dude, I mean, a college loan, people are
Yeah.
hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt from
Yeah.
college.
That's
from getting an education.
Yeah. I
Thank
mean, it's
God.
it's tough.
So once you get over the mindset part of it,
There's
what would
only
you say is
two things
next?
you can do: lower your expenses and make more money. It's actually quite simple. Tactically speaking,
Right.
it's
Yeah.
simple.
Right.
It's not. It's like you said. It's not about not getting the lattes, but it's about just handling your money properly and making putting some towards the debt and paying your expenses and living minimally.
And obviously looking into what is charging the most interest and focusing more money onto those things.
Yeah.
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 In our previous call, I mentioned that, we do a pro tip every episode, and I just feel like this would be a great place to start with just speaking about credit cards. I know that you mentioned it had something to do with that and, kind of accumulating points. So with that being said, what is your pro tip?
Okay. I want to do a disclaimer number one.
Yes.
Some people lily cannot handle credit cards. I mean, it's an addictive behavior.
Know your habits.
I know your
Yeah.
habits. Right. That's number
Know
one.
thyself.
Know thyself. Know thyself.
Know thyself.
Right. That's like the number one thing for money and anything. Know thyself. So that's number one. Number two, like you'll hear a lot of financial experts. There's one in particular who's like, credit cards are the devil, basically, right? And it's so not true. You just have to learn how to use it. But there's a lot of people who will like blame the credit card company. So we're taught to blame a lot.
Right.
In
Point
society,
the finger.
point the finger a lot instead of that personal response. Like no credit card dragged your ass to the cash register and
Yeah.
made you swipe. Like,
Right.
like I'm not saying credit card companies are saints. They're not by
Yeah.
any means, right? But again, learn how to play the game.
Yeah.
Right.
And I also,
what it is.
I feel like it's like it goes back to the relationship. Like if you think credit cards are the devil, like that's probably just something inside of you that you're like, you know what I'm saying? Like, but if you have a healthy relationship with them, then like they're not gonna be
It's
the
fine.
devil.
And there is such thing as good debt too. I just want to say, like, especially
Yeah.
for real estate investing, they say that too. Is like there is such thing as good debt. If your debt's gonna make you money, then
Exactly.
Facts.
So I use that as an example a lot. Like if I went and got into debt over like spending too much money at Target, that's fucking stupid. But
Right.
like if I had to make an investment in my business and then it's gonna make a
Right,
return, maybe
right.
not right away, so maybe I'll have to take the hit for a second, but it's gonna make me a return. That's not the same thing.
Right.
And ideally with student loans, that's
That's the idea.
that's the logic.
Right.
That's the idea. You can argue whether or not that's working out for people, but that's the
Right.
idea.
Yeah.
And like you said, real estate investing, they leverage debt all the time.
Yeah, it's about
to-
leveraging it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Using it as a tool.
And so, how do you make credit cards your friends? And what is your pro tip?
I'm
for
such
the
a fan of
cards?
credit card
Ooh,
points.
tell us more.
So when I was broke and couldn't afford flights and had to
This
go to
is the pro
conferences,
tip, by the way.
yeah, I flew for free for 5 years because I racked up so many points.
Wow, we're so sleeping on this.
I mean, I definitely I use one, and I know that I can be better at it, so that's why I'm excited for this. But it's definitely a thing.
It's a move.
So let me
Yeah.
give you examples just to put it into context, because sometimes people are like, what? And I'm like, yes, this is real. Number one, you need to have, I think, at least like a 700 credit score. So if you're not there yet, go work on that to get in on these cards. That's number one.
Okay.
Right? And you can do that. It's not that hard. And then number two, the idea is you have to look for cards that are going to help basically be in your favor. So for example, a few years ago, Chase released the Chase Sapphire Reserve.
I've
right?
heard so much about this
Girl,
card.
it's such a good card.
Oh my God.
I skipped
Not sponsored.
customs 2 weeks ago because of this card. Let me get there.
Oh my God.
So with the Chase Sapphire Reserve, when it first came out into the market, they had a bonus of like 100,000 points if you spent like 4,000 in the first 3 months. What? And I was like, with my business expenses, that's done.
Easy.
It's game.
Yeah.
It's game. It's done. Game over. It's done. Girl, if I could pay my rent with a credit card, I would. Like, I would just figure it
facts.
out.
Yeah.
Or payroll with a credit card. You know how many points I would have if I could do payroll with a credit card? So that would be one example. So I cashed in on those 100,000, but there were other ones. You know, Southwest had a good program. They were known. Just look for what actually works for you. And then with the Chase Sapphire Reserve, for example, like it paid for my global entry and TSA pre-check.
Wow.
Which is like $100 every 5 years or something like that.
Yeah,
so
I just got
I was at a mastermind retreat in Jamaica a few weeks ago. I skipped
Fun.
all of customs because the reserve paid for my global entry.
Wow.
Everyone's in line. You're like, sorry, broke bitches.
They're like rich wealth.
I skipped
Glamour.
all y'all. Goodbye. And it was like hundreds of people in
Oh my
Miami
God.
International Airport.
Power move.
For customs, and you know, you skip all of it with global entry, and the reserve covers that. Now there's this big hoopla now because
Blah.
they do have fees, and they're raising the fee by like $100, so I think it's to like $550 a year. Well, the only people who like use this card are the ones who know how to work it. So
Right.
when the card initially came out, they actually lost a lot of money. Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, I don't feel
People
bad.
took advantage.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel.
Hate the game, not the player.
Yeah.
I hate the play. I hate the game.
That did not go the way they thought it was going to
Yeah,
go.
exactly.
Because people knew how to play
You
the
played
game.
yourself.
Yeah, you did.
I don't feel bad for them, but, you know, they still made a ton of money
Right.
just off of transaction
It's
fees. So it's
fucking
okay. Right? So, but now, like, okay, fine, we're raising the fee, but you have this other perk. So you get like a $300 annual travel credit every year. So, like, any travel expense, you get a credit. Or now you get Lyft Pink for like a year for free.
Nice.
Which is
What is
awesome.
Lyft Pink?
I think
Program.
it's
for
like they give you
Lyft.
priority on like airport rides and cancellations and all that kind of stuff, and it's cheaper rates. Yeah. And you get 10 times the points on Lyft rides now.
Okay, so if you had to
And-
give three best travel credit cards, go.
The Chase Sapphire, okay, I'm like a Chase girl right
I
now.
am too.
Right? And it's just because I've got this little combo going on that's working really well for me. So with the personal card, I have the Chase Freedom Unlimited. It's like the blue one with the lime green.
I have that one too.
Because I get 1.5 points on everything, and it just gets dumped into the Chase Ultimate Rewards. So that's what I'm using for personal finances.
I need to look at that.
I used the Reserve for business for a while because I had all these expenses anyway. And then recently, I got the Chase Sapphire Inc., which is a business credit card. So you start building business credit. I get triple points on ad spend, triple points on communication, like my phone, my internet, that kind of stuff, triple points on shipping, and triple points on travel.
Anyone got a pen?
So the three of those added in together,
Combined.
I have like over 200,000 Chase points for the second time in my life. Like if I hadn't like been using stuff, I
Right,
probably
right.
accumulated over 1 million
All right,
points. At
gotta
this
get on
point.
Chase. Not a sponsored ad.
But out of curiosity, I feel like people are kind of in the dark about what points mean and how they're used and
What
how
they
they're
can go towards.
accumulated. And of course, it differs for each thing.
Yeah,
but,
it
like,
differs for
when
each
you
thing.
say like you get 10 times points, what the fuck is a point? Like I kind of
So you can exchange those points for either cash back. Some people do gift cards. I don't understand. Whatever, do you, boo?
Mm-hmm.
Or like me, in my case, what I've done is either cash back or free flights
Yeah, because you're kind of
or
just
hotel
reinvesting.
accommodations or.
And so how does it differ from each? Like let's say for Chase, a point is that a dollar? Like, are they, you know what I mean? Like when you spend
No,
a
it
dollar, is it a
depends.
point? Is it half a point?
No,
You know what I mean?
it depends. So you have to look at the programs specifically because like they're not all created equal. That's
Yeah,
number one.
for
Like,
sure.
Chase does have good reviews for this kind of stuff. American Express does as well.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
Some other ones not so much because you don't get as far with the points. So like if you do cash back, you would get less out of it than if you were like booking free flights.
Okay.
For example.
Gotcha.
And so how do you feel about the cards that are like partnered with like American Airlines or Delta, like getting the card that's like, you know, immediately associated with
Okay,
that?
it depends because I did Southwest and that was awesome.
Yeah.
Right. Delta did not have so much luck with, and they had like a little.
Same.
Well, that's because
You have a Delta credit card?
Well, the Delta, they have a little like name in the travel hacker community. So instead of like Sky Miles, they call it like Sky Pesos because it just doesn't like it's just you don't get a lot of bang for your buck.
Gotcha.
With their loyalty.
Oh, wait, are you
program.
saying like that people call it Sky Pesos?
Yeah.
Oh, I was like, that's an interesting name for them to call it.
No, people call it because like they could have changed it because the rewards game has gotten really competitive.
Competitive, yeah.
So it could have changed.
Yeah, you have all these
Right.
options.
So sleeping on that.
I have the American Airlines credit card.
Aviator?
Yeah, the Aviator
Yeah.
MasterCard. And I've found that I really like it. One, I pretty much exclusively fly American Airlines, so it really helps with like getting like priority and shit like that. And
Checked baggage,
Yeah,
you know,
I
all
get my
that
first.
stuff.
That's
Yeah.
been huge. I get my first check bag free on domestic flights, which with how frequently I travel, and each bag is what, like $25 or $30. Like it helps a lot, you know, there and back. And then obviously when you sign up, I think you get like 40. I think you get more if you do it in the air. You get more like if you were like
because sometimes
there's like codes and shit.
Sometimes they'll just have special promotions throughout the year, so that's
Yeah.
why like you know the points guy. I think he lives here half the time. The points guy between here and New York, I think.
The points guy.
Points guy?
Yeah, the points guy of View from the Wing. Like there's certain travel hacking blogs that they just
see, we didn't even know that.
yeah
Yeah, I'm like, who's points guy?
they stay on top
Followed.
of this stuff. Yeah.
Cool.
Can I tell you how I hacked American Airlines?
Yes, please do.
Can you?
So I never did it with the American Airlines card. This is a little bit more advanced. So British Airways is partnered with American Airlines. A few years ago, British Airways on their credit card gave you like 100,000 bonus points. So like that same thing, like spend 3,000 in the first 90 days, you got 100,000 points, and you could use the British Airways points on American flights.
Oh, okay. So yeah, you just went okay, yeah, because they're like a partner, and a lot of airlines kind of partner. I think like,
Yeah.
like Qatar is partnered with like Delta or something. That's
They have
wrong, but
like
you know what I mean.
One Global, and they have or One World, whatever. They have all these different
Interesting.
Star Alliance,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff.
And just really quick, so on the topic of credit cards, I feel like a lot of people, you know, open up that first credit card that's like ever sent to them in the mail, and then like it seems like a great, you know, option. You're like, oh my god, my first credit card, and then like you realize like after a year, like the fucking interest rate is insane.
Yeah.
And then so like that happened to me. I, you know, didn't rack it up, but like I ended up paying it off, and then I was like, I don't even want to be tempted to use this card anymore because I don't want to get hit with these insane interest rates. So I've also heard, you know, the myth or, you know, maybe the fact that if you close a credit card, it will, you know, affect your score negatively. So what would
that's
you
not a myth.
recommend?
Okay, well, it's paid off?
It's completely paid off.
Paid off?
Paid off to
Okay.
zero.
How long have you had the other cards? Because you mentioned you had another one.
I have three. I have three credit cards.
3. Okay, so the oldest one is the one you're talking
The
about.
Discover.
How long have you had
By the
that
way,
one?
that shit sucks. Not
Yeah,
bad. What was that?
How long have you had that one?
I'd say maybe like 4 years now.
How long have you had the other two?
Probably like 2.5.
Okay, so close the first one because it's a shitty card, right? Know that you're going to take a hit, and then maybe, and it depends on the person, just pay the other two, like the balance in full every month. It'll come right back up.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I guess that's for me, like I always try to pay in chunks, and like I don't know, I should be more aware of like where my credit score and what's happening to it. But I just figured if I pay in large
There's a lot of
sums,
confusion about credit score.
I feel like
Yeah.
why don't we
there's
have a
lot.
class in school about credit cards?
Because
Yeah.
they're teaching us about parallelograms.
because they want us to get into debt.
The government wants
Girl,
us to go to that.
I've never had to measure the circumference of shit in my entire
said what I
adult
said.
life.
What'd you say?
I said the government wants to get us into debt.
No, they do.
I was like, I said what I said.
I mean, they backed the student loans.
Yeah. Guys, if I'm fucking dead next week, you know who did it. But as we're on the topic.
Wait, were you saying something? She was trying to say something. Were you?
Oh, that like I've never had to measure
Oh.
the circumference of shit in my entire
Right.
adult life.
Why don't they
but-
teach us credit
yeah, I
cards?
mean,
Heard that. Next myth, and I promise we'll be moving on, but I also just feel like it's kind of on the same topic, but I heard that you actually shouldn't pay the balance in full, you should pay it down to like 30 or 33%. I don't know if people have heard that in the past, but I have. So I've only very recently paid it like all the way down because I felt like it was better.
You're conflating two things.
Okay.
Right. Okay. So here's what happens. A lot of the credit myths that are out there are based on some sort of truth. It's just been misconstrued.
Okay. Gotcha. Good to know.
That's why people are like, hack your FICO score. And it's like, wait a minute. FICO's like not even the only. Anyway.
I digress.
Right. So credit utilization makes up a big part of your credit score. Right. And then how much you're actually using in comparison to what you have also makes up a big part of your score. So there are two different factors.
Okay.
Right? So the first one is you shouldn't use more than 30% of the available credit that you have to you. Right? And that's like every month. Right? Because that'll negatively affect your score. You're showing the creditor, oh, they're taking too much. Right? Like, this is scary. Red flag, red alert. Okay. The one that you're combining two together. The other one is credit utilization. So like you have to actually use credit in order to get a credit score, which people get really fucked up over.
Right. Like you gotta use it.
You gotta use it, or else it's not doing anything for you. It's a fine line, right? So the thing that people say is like, this is the myth, right? Is the don't pay off your credit card in full every month because then it's not reporting credit utilization. That's a myth.
Okay. Debunked.
Yeah.
Mythbusters on this bitch.
So what you were doing is you're like, oh, they're telling me not to pay it off. So I get the credit utilization. They're telling me to get it below 30. So you see how you were like combining two different things. Yeah. So which is very common.
So it is good to pay in full.
Yes. 100%,
whenever you can.
Yeah.
Okay. There you go.
It is not going to fuck up your score.
Good to know.
Doing God's work over here.
It's not hard work, but it's honest work.
Yes.
And also, like, on another note about credit scores, like, people drive themselves
crazy.
Insane.
Tyler checks his every morning. Like,
wait, is that even okay for you? Like,
well, not checks, but he monitors it because on Mint it gives you like I think an average, like guesstimate.
Like there's lots of other ones, and then the funny part is if you go to a bank or a car dealership, they're using their own thing anyway. So then people get all mad and they're like, "But my Mint score says this," and the bank's like, "I don't give a fuck what Mint tells you." Like,
yeah, facts.
We're using our own thing.
Yeah. How we're in the process of like getting our finances right on paper because as independent contractors, and this is a good segue, it's hard to make yourself like you want to, write everything off. But also like for me, I know when we were getting our mortgage, it was really difficult because on paper, it looks like I don't make much when in reality, I make more than Tyler.
Right.
So we had to use only his income. Right. And I think that's a hard place for a lot of people who are working for themselves is like, how do I even go about it? How do I make myself look good for lending or just how to do my taxes properly?
Cash.
Right. What is cash though these days?
Helps. So for self-employed individuals, I mean, I've had an accountant on my team for years. I mean, I got to a point where I'm like, there's no way in hell I can do this myself. Like, don't even waste your time. Right. Yes, accountants are going to cost you money, but it's worth it.
Yeah, it is.
So that's number one. Cash helps, right? What you did helps. Co-signer or someone with the W-2. What I've done in my company, because my company grew to that stage, is like now I have a W-2 from my own company.
Okay. So you pay yourself as an employee.
So I pay myself as an employee. I have a salary.
Gotcha.
And I'm paying taxes out of my salary.
Zach's like, yes.
Oh, that's what you're doing?
Started this
He's
year.
trying.
You want the S-Corp route? Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we're doing, too.
I was just spending everything out of my business account.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, what the fuck was I doing? I went and bought a car. They were like, what the fuck are you doing? They told me to do what you said.
That's where we're seeing the same accountant right now, and we're about to funnel the same thing into it.
So that's what I'm saying. Learn how to play the game, people.
Right.
It's built in the tax system is built in the favor of business owners. It is what it is, right? And I made a joke on Facebook the other day that the more my company grows, the more I'm amazed by the tax system because it makes all the sense and no sense at the same time.
Right. And that's a good point because I don't think people realize the people getting fucked the most by taxes are employees.
Yeah.
You'll learn that in Rich Dad Poor Dad when you all read it, but
yeah, because he's got the flow chart. I showed that quadrant to a client the other day, and she like her brain melted. She was like, I'm doing what? I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah, you're paying a lot of money in taxes, people. All right, so my next question is it's kind of broad and general, but I know a lot of our audience is out there listening and they're just like, they just don't know what to do next. And they might be in a job that they hate. They, might be fresh out of college, whatever it is, or just trying to get a grasp on their finances and like how to take control of them. So I guess what is your dummy proof 101 like basics of finance that like everyone should be moving towards?
So been there, and been there. Yep. And what I did, and again, I didn't know I did this at the time, but it turns out it was the right thing to do, was I got clear on how I wanted to live my life, and I started trying to design first in my imagination, what is this going to look like?
Right.
And then from there, you start figuring out your money. Most people have it the other way around. They're just like, this is how much I make. This is my lot in life. That's it. I'm broke. I'm always going to be broke.
Yeah.
Right. So that's where then this is the life I'm going to have because I'm always going to be in this situation.
Right.
So I would say get clear on how you want to live. Right. And then from there, okay, that's going to dictate what you have to figure out with your money.
Right.
So because life costs money. Right. So in my case, I was like, okay, well, I don't want a boss because I don't like being told what to do. And I'm a creative. Right. I want to be able to travel. I want to be able to do all these things. What does that mean? Okay, well, that means I probably got to do my own thing.
Right. Like you're not going to have all those qualities in a JOB.
Right. It didn't happen right away. I did have a JOB and then I applied a lot. I was hustling on the side of the JOB and I applied a lot of what I was learning at the JOB to what I was doing on the side, but it was all with that vision in mind. And that's what I'm doing now with my CFO, right? Who's handling the business finances now. And she even asked me like, okay, well, how do you want to live? Like, what do you want to do with your salary money? Because then we can kind of hit a goal for your salary. Like everything starts with how do you want to live? And then the money stuff comes after. It's just a resource and a tool to help you get
to that level.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think it's important for people our age to be opening retirement accounts?
Yeah, fuck yeah. Okay. And the reason I say that is because you've got time on your side, so you can write out
compound interest.
Yeah, compound. But eighth wonder of the world, right? Yeah. You've got time on your side. You can write out the markets. That's a whole game too, man. I got 2 retirement accounts.
Nice. Yeah. My mom's boyfriend actually last year recently, because he knows that I make money the way I do, and I don't have any 401k. And we had a job briefly.
I never had one.
But he kind of sat me down and explained the importance of the sooner you start, the better, because of the factor of compound interest. And he showed me like the graph. If I were to start, in 7 years versus starting now, I could invest less money then.
Yeah.
I mean, less money now, but starting earlier, I'll get way more ahead.
401k. You want to hear what a nerd I am? One of our goals for the company this year is to start a 401k.
That's awesome. That's
We're
legit.
Yeah, it's legit.
That is legit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I encourage our listeners look into different type of retirement accounts. I have a Roth IRA. I don't know everything about it, but I invest every month because being a contractor,
it's doing something in there.
Yeah, being a contractor, we don't have that option. So it's important that we do those things that people seek out as benefits from normal companies. And it's important we do that for ourselves.
I would also say don't be afraid of making mistakes. People are so afraid of failure. Speaking of self-sabotaging, that's one of the ways they do it. They're like, I have to be perfect. And that comes from like school. You got to get an A and all this other stuff. And I have to be perfect, and that translates over into not investing a lot of the time because they don't necessarily understand it. Like, you're going to fuck up.
Yeah.
Like that's a part of the process. Like my first retirement account, I didn't notice until maybe 5 or 6 years later that it was being eaten up by fees, right? So then I had to change it, right? But it would have been worse if I hadn't done anything.
Right.
So
I think that's a big misconception too. It's just like people think they're safer by not doing anything.
No, bullshit.
Like, yeah.
Like I'm at a point right now, and again, like I've healed a lot of my own internal things, and there's been education and misconceptions. Like literally last month, I was at a point where I was like, I've got too much cash sitting in my personal savings accounts doing nothing, and it's really fucking pissing me off. But I'm saying it's doing nothing.
Exactly.
That's the part that was bothering me. I'm like, I need to invest in it. So I need to. I'd maxed out the Roth IRA for the year, so I had to like go find something
creative,
else, right? But that's
real estate.
Yeah, but that's a misconception people have. They're like, oh no, I don't have the money to do it. You know, and what I tell people, and this is in the wealth consciousness books, and sometimes it gets misconstrued as well. Lots of nuance, right? Know thyself.
Yeah. Again, know
Which
thyself.
is money's meant to be used. It's meant to be invested, right? Every wealth consciousness book talks about it. A lot of spiritual teachings talk about it. It's meant to be used. It's just people kind of misconstrue that, and they think like, okay, let me go spend all this shit instead of like investing it so I build more wealth.
Right.
But
like,
it is meant to be used.
have your money make more money for you. Don't just spend
Exactly.
it on things that aren't
Yeah.
gonna come out to, you know, and granted, like, it is nice spoiling yourself here and
Yeah,
there.
there's nothing
and
wrong
we all
with
love
it.
things, but
Yeah.
also make sure that you're like planning for that bigger vision and that bigger plan.
I mean, I want first class tickets. I mean, who cares?
Yeah,
Send a nice jumbo
I like
Chanel bag when I
things.
get my first investment
Oh
property.
yeah, I'm so excited to get my Benz and be whipping that around one day
And there's
when my
nothing-
investments pay for it. You
And
know?
there's nothing wrong with any of that.
Right.
And people like, there's a lot of shaming going on all ends, honestly, because they shame people for not having money. They shame people for having
having
too
money.
much money. I
Right.
mean, we're
Yeah.
completely fucked up.
Cool. So I know that you have a program called Persuade to Profit, and tell me a little bit about that, and you know, kind of who it's geared towards.
Yeah, so this is the program I wish I would have had when I had a job and
Yep.
was freelancing and was blogging on the side, because as the creative, I never understood the business structure of
Yeah.
it. And I also wasted a lot of time on lots of different things, like, you know, affiliate marketing, which I'm sure you guys have dabbled into
Yeah.
because of the podcast, or maybe like lower price point products. You know, I freelanced for a long time. That's where I had the most success. But it still wasn't getting me to like the financial goals I was seeing for myself. And that didn't come until I learned some business sense.
Right.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Hard knocks is the way I learned it. So what I've done is I just took lessons from the last 10 years or so and put it into this one program. So the first thing we'll do is like market research data, and I actually teach you how to do that. And then we turn that into a high ticket offering. So on average, my clients are creating stuff like their minimum price point to work with them is like $1,000 to $2,000. I have a client who's a travel agent. The minimum to work with her is $10,000. So we're just going for the big money
Nice.
fast.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're going to get there
Quicker.
quicker.
Yeah.
And I wasted years on like the lower price point shit
Right.
that it just
You
takes
didn't need to.
You didn't need
Yeah.
to. So that's kind of what we do in that program. And then I teach you how to market and sell it. And when we get to this pricing and sales part of things, that's where everyone's money shit comes up. So that's where we start
right.
addressing that.
Huh.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right, we're going to go into the next segment of our episode, Deep Dive. It's questions we ask every guest that we have on, and it's always really interesting hearing their answers. So let's get deep. The first question is, what is your why?
Ooh. Okay. This has evolved over the years, but I honestly do believe that everybody has a right to prosperity. They just don't know it.
Love that.
Yeah. I've learned to
I
think
love
big.
that.
In the beginning, it was literally like, I just don't want this fucking job.
Yeah.
And now it's like everyone has a birthright to prosperity.
They do, though. It's the truth.
And in particular, I want to help women because I've seen so much cycles of under-earning.
Yeah.
And when it's been shown that when women get their hands on money, they do some real good things with it. So,
Love that.
yeah.
Okay, next.
So our next question is, what's your favorite quote, and what does it mean to you?
There's no such thing as certainty, and I made that up when I quit my job.
There's no such thing as certainty.
It's
Okay.
liberating and terrifying all at the same time.
Yeah.
Feel the fear and do
And
it
enjoy
anyway.
the
Yeah.
journey every step of the way. Yeah. What did you say? The
There's-
quote you said earlier?
About
the process?
Fulfillment is
It lies in growth.
Lies in
Fulfillment
growth.
lies in growth.
I love
Not
that.
in staying the same.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, and again, the wealth consciousness books talk about this part. You're either expanding or you're contracting. No one stays the same. Nothing rests. You're either moving forward or moving backward.
Right.
So move forward.
She would get along so well with Eric, my mom's boyfriend. Okay, last but not least, what do you think separates successful people from those who give up, fail, or never get started on their dreams?
They don't overthink as much. They just do.
They just do.
They just
They're
do.
caught in the rut.
Yeah, they just do.
So you think thinking So you thinking is a big part of it, which we touched on, you know, just.
I think sometimes people overthink it, right? And it's very funny. I've told some of my students this, actually, depending on the student. And I'm like, the reason you're self-sabotaging is because you're giving yourself too much time to think. Get busy. Get busy working.
Yeah. I can think of a few friends who have been thinking for years.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing.
know?
People think for years, and I explain that on sales calls, right? When I do sales training, people are like, "Oh, how do I deal with? I need to think about it." And I'm like, these people have been thinking about this shit for years. They just need to make a damn decision.
Right.
Like
You
that
just-
takes an instant.
You have to take a step forward in some direction.
Yeah. Don't fall for that bullshit. They've been thinking about this.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And this isn't in the questions, but just out of curiosity, and I think something that would benefit our listeners, what are your top 3 favorite finance books or wealth?
Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill, The Science of Getting Rich, Wallace D. Wattles. What's a good third one? I mean, all the really good finance books are basically based off of those two, to be honest.
And then
those are the only
maybe
two
like
you really need.
a success or mindset book.
10X Rule, Grant Cardone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. We're big book gals. So I'm going to definitely add those to my list.
Yeah, I love that.
Cool. Guys, this was awesome. I
was
feel like
really
I gained
awesome.
so much. I hope you guys did too.
Yeah, this was huge. I really love
Juicy.
this episode. Yeah, a lot of takeaways.
Yeah.
I'm definitely gonna have to like re-listen to this and take some notes.
As per usual. I feel like
Yeah.
we're like, oh my God. But it's good. I'm glad we're providing this value. And these are conversations that I think our audience might not get to hear every day. So I'm glad that we can like shed light on it because it's important. Money is a huge part of
Yeah,
life.
and you may not realize this. A lot of your audience is probably in environments where they can't have conversations like this. So
Right.
you guys are doing a really big service to the world.
And so are you.
As
Thank
are
you so much for
you.
coming on and providing that value.
Yeah.
Love
Thanks
that.
for having me.
This is awesome, guys. If you like this, please share with a friend who you think could use to hear it. Our video version is on YouTube. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts.
And where can they find you?
Oh, so you can find me. My main site with the podcast is amandaabella.com. I
she has her own podcast too. Check it out.
make money, yo, honey. Go
Love
find
that.
that.
Go get that.
This is gonna be on YouTube, so I have a YouTube channel. Just go search my name. I'll come right
Cool.
up. And then I have a free training which shows people how I scaled to $153,000 in 12 months after like years of not being able to crack.
Yeah.
Awesome.
the
Love
six
that.
figures. So
Love
you can
that.
get that at amandaabella.com/influencer.
Cool.
Wonderful.
Go check her out, guys.
Yeah, thank you for joining us, and
for having me.
happy Monday, brothers. I hope that everyone has a fantastic week.
Yeah, and if you enjoyed this episode, leave us a review if you're feeling generous. Leave us 5 stars, a rating review.
Leave them 5 stars, guys. They're
Yes,
awesome.
help us out, guys. We love you. Have a great rest of your week and go get it.
See you next week.
Bye.